Hello and welcome to Beyond Biotech, the weekly podcast from Labiotech. I'm Dylan Kissane and this is episode 144 for the podcast. In the most recent IMPART survey of biotechs worldwide, respondents were asked whether they thought the impact of artificial intelligence on the biopharma industry was likely to be positive, negative, or neutral. A full 80%, 8 out of 10 of those biotechs responded that the impact was likely to be positive. But just where is that impact going to be felt? And how much of that impact is already a reality? This week, I sat down with David Del Bourgo, founder and CEO of WhiteLab Genomics, to talk all things AI and biotech. I hope you enjoy our discussion where we unpack how and where AI is changing the way that new therapies are imagined, developed, tested, and supplied. So, David, thanks for joining us today on Beyond Biotech. Before we jump in, maybe you can tell me a little bit about your personal journey. You moved from biomedical engineering and business development eventually to founding WhiteLab Genomics. Tell me about that.
Yes, thanks, Dylan, for having me. I'm a biomedical engineer by training, and I started my career in the medical imaging at GE Healthcare as an engineer, and then I moved to more business development, marketing positions, product management, always in highly technical environment and very innovative. So throughout my career, I worked in medical imaging and then medical device. And then I worked in a company in the field of genomics, which was, and I got really interested and I developed a passion about the field of genetic engineering. So back then I was working for this company, and there was a lot of innovation in the field of how you can use gene editing to create new drugs. That was back in 2014, 2015, when Editas Medicine was founded and launched programs to develop new drugs, new treatments using gene editing, and got really passionate about that. I think back then I realized that there was this opportunity to use data that was kind of, overwhelming in many aspects because of the quantity of data generated, and the industry was not yet grasping all this data. Was new, and then I think my engineering, brain got plugged in back, and I was like, okay, what can we do to help the industry make sense of all the data and develop better drugs, in a more efficient way. And this is why we decided to create WhiteLab Genomics, to have an AI platform that helps to discover and design new drugs in the field of genomic medicine.
You say you co-founded WhiteLab, right? Is it with Julien Cotineau?
Yes, I co-founded with Julien Cotineau and Lucia Cinque. So Lucia, she's a biochemist by training, and Julien, is a genetician. We were working together in the previous company. They were part of my team, and when I had this idea, I said, "Hey guys, what do you think? Would you be interested to onboard onto this venture?" And here we are, 6 years later.
Yeah, your mission there, I read on the website, is about accelerating these genomic therapies, and you said that working with all of this data to make things move a little bit faster. Can you give me an idea or even a snapshot of just what that looks like in practice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, for that, I usually use this kind of image that the pharma industry is still doing a process where a lot of molecules are screened to be tested, right? Millions or even more. And it will be like similar to if the automobile industry, to test a new prototype, would basically manufacture it as like a test, car, and like crash it into the wall to see how well it works and get feedback data from it and just build a new one and crash it again and build a new one, and this for like a million times, right? And so this is where the AI approach comes in, where what you do is like, instead of like screening so many molecules and eliminating the bad ones over like a trial and error process, which is highly costly and inefficient, you do a lot of like in silico modeling, where you, based on different data sets, you create models, you train algorithms to predict if this molecule is going to be a good candidate or if it's going to fail. And then when you get to your pool of highly qualified molecules, well, you have way less. So in our platform, we're like 10,000 times more efficient than the global, like the standard process. And your chances of success are much higher as well. So you save time, you save cost, and it will eventually be reflected in the price of the drug, which are really high today.
I've got a couple of questions around the company itself. I mean, you were founded in 2019, but you were part of the Y Combinator group as well. That was a little bit later. How did you find yourself at Y Combinator, and how did they help you?
So yes, I had like a wonderful intern back then. She was like a data scientist. She was doing a data scientist internship at WhiteLab, and she said, "Hey, what do you think about like applying to YC?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, but it's really hard to get, and but that would be interesting." So we tried, and we were like lucky, and we got in. It was an amazing moment for us. Because we also have this very international background where the US is important for us in terms of market. And so what YC helps you do is, so it was unfortunately remote because we were like, I think the last batch after they reopened in California post-COVID, but we did it remote, which was convenient from maybe like personal schedule and stuff, but not the whole experience, unfortunately, there. However, what YC does is it helps you ask every time, what are you doing that shows that you have customer traction, that you're building a product that makes sense for the market, for your customers. So I think it was very good to have us really think about the platform and the product and the traction and how we build something that has an impact. And also it exposed yourself to a lot of investors, a lot of US-based investors. And I think it helped us accelerate our fundraising back then. And we raised just like a couple of, I think during the batch, we didn't have to wait the end of demo day, and we just closed our raise before.
Yeah. And you're leading the team now at WhiteLab. I mean, what gets you going in the morning? What excites you about going in to lead this team?
That's a great question. The drugs we're talking about, what we call genomic medicine, they're incredible therapies because what they do basically is within one time or two injections, you're going to cure the disease or get rid of the disease, potentially forever. And the reason for that is what those therapies are doing. They're bringing a genetic sequence, a DNA sequence or RNA sequence or CRISPR into the cells, into the nucleus to repair or control what went wrong and repair and make new proteins that are healthy. And so basically, there is a drug called Zolgensma owned by Novartis that treats the spinal muscular atrophy, which is a deadly disease for infants. And this drug is 2 million euros, for an injection. And so what makes us wake up in the morning is that how we impact the R&D process so that we help the industry design drugs way better, more efficient, with higher chances of getting, approved in clinical trials, where we design drugs in the machine, and then when they get to the in vivo validation or human validation, then they have higher chances of success, but it's faster much faster. So our target is to, by a factor of 3, divide by 3 the time of development. And so then you have more patients who can have access to those therapies and more therapies for more disease. So I gave this example for Zolgensma. It's like for muscular disease, but there are a lot of like brain disease, eye disease, and lung disease. A lot of therapies can be used and applied to treat, including cancer. So I think what makes us, our drive is there is a way to change things using AI. We didn't wait for AI to be, fashionable like today, but we started 2019, even thinking about it before. And that's our mission every single day.
The AI is really interesting to me. At WhiteLab, you're using it for things like vector engineering, for target identification. Can you walk through how AI might fit into those use cases, but also more broadly in biotech? Where are we applying AI to make things faster and better?
Yeah, so if we're talking about drug discovery and drug design, AI is going to help because you can identify new targets faster, right? So you can be a very smart person. I mean, this is all a lot of computational data, basically. And if you want to look like how to enter a cell and what kind of protein you need to target to have an effect and to enter the cell, we have AI that's going to predict and identify the right targets into cells. By analyzing billions data, basically. So this cannot be done by the human brain, all alone. And so the other component is going to help design the right drug so it fits to the target. And then again, it's a lot of deep learning models, like how to predict protein folding, like AlphaFold, this type of also approaches to have the best candidates. And then, so a lot of the AI is progressing in our field with a lot of simulation on how to predict, protein interactions and different interaction between biological components. So this is key, and this is progressing really well in industry. So this is AI for drug design. Then you have AI applied to which we don't do, but companies do, is how to use AI to improve clinical trials or to predict effect on patients, and so how to select better cohorts. And you do it using AI to just be more efficient when you run your clinical trials. You also have AI in the pharmaceutical industry where how to better optimize manufacturing processes, which we know is complicated and costly, and a lot of data also around that. And so the industry is using AI. I think right now, Sanofi took the lead couple 2 years ago. We actually have a partnership with them. They're a partner. We're developing new drugs for Sanofi. And then they also apply AI, in different business units and, in bioproduction and manufacturing and probably other things that we don't have necessarily public. But I think it should be used, in the all possibilities within the pharma industry. And it's the case today. It was not the case, I would say, a couple of years ago. Maybe companies like Moderna, they were more advanced on that and actually were successful with the COVID vaccine. But now I think everybody understood this is a must-have. When you're a biotech or pharma company, you need a strong AI team, you need a strong AI component, or you need a strong AI partner. And I think the industry realizes that today.
So target ID, drug design, these are areas where AI is already having a big impact. Is there somewhere in this biopharma space where AI is still finding its footing, where it's still getting a hold on the market?
That's a good question. I think I think maybe what is going to be important is what the regulatory bodies are going to want from the biotech or from the AI or tech bio companies. What are we what do we need to provide so regulatory filings are, can go smoothly and they're solid data and convinced data, which probably happens because in the end you still have to do, if you want to file for IND to go to clinical trials, you need still have to provide in vivo data, and it's not AI anymore. It's just, it's like biology, and in primates or not, and NHPs and non-human primates. So I think maybe this is a good question to ask to like regulatory bodies, where they're going to ask like some kind of proof before you are allowed even to just go advance into the clinical trials. And then probably, there is the topic about like the twins, like that kind of digital twins you can use. I think could be very efficient. Also, like to in clinical trials to compare parameters and have like a digital arms. I don't know the tool, how is it efficient to date to its full extent yet, but I think maybe you can progress on that as well.
When you're talking about regulation, of course, there's the FDA side, the regulation of the drugs themselves. Are you also looking at regulation of AI as a technology? So governmental regulation of AI as an approach?
Yeah, so that was, there was this kind of, there are a lot of discussion in Europe around that. And I think, I think what the key here is to, you still want to be able to unleash the whole possibility of AI. I mean, there could be this kind of worry that it's going to take over I think I'm not worried about that. I think we're like far from this level of intelligence. But I think what you need to be cautious about are the data, the kind of data ownership. I think like, you create new data set or you create new models. Who do they belong to? It's kind of this more like of proprietary discussions of intellectual property generated by AI. I think it's still tricky, and it's not necessarily clear to whom it belongs. And we need to be careful on one hand to not regulate too much, because if you regulate too much, you're going to kill innovation. And at the same time, you have to have some guidelines so things are done, consistently and properly.
You talked about speeding up the development and trying to move forward at a faster rate, a factor of 3 faster than the traditional development there. That's also got to make things cheaper as well. There's a cost saving that comes from that, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah, totally. Because already in our, analysis, we impact the cost by a reduction of 70% in R&D. So, which translate basically in $350 million savings for like a pharma company in like the non-clinical part, which is, significant. If you multiply this by the number of programs they have in R&D, that's like a ton of money. And so I think it will, and it has to be reflected on the price. If you can produce your drug faster, you go through less hurdles, less failure, then it's going to impact the price. Another aspect that's going to impact the price, which is very important, is how many patients you can address. Like an issue was at some point is that because clinical trials, they were like challenging. And so they at some point, the number of patients that will be eligible for the treatment was reduced a lot. And therefore the price has to go up so the company can have its ROI, so have less patients. But so the price is going to be like 2 or 3 million euros for that many patients. Now, if you can address more patients because your drugs is better, is more efficient, and is more adapted to like more patients or more disease, then you can have an effect on the price as well. That's also what we're trying to achieve.
So AI, it helps for speed, then it helps for cost. What about precision? Is it any more precise, or does it do anything to improve accuracy?
Yes, I think a key for efficiency is precision. So, for example, one of the challenge of the industry is you want to make sure that when you inject a patient with a drug, you want, in the specific of genomic medicine, but I would say it's like similar in many situations, you want to make sure it goes or it affects what you're trying to target, right? And not the rest. And so, for example, in genomic medicine, a lot of the drugs are going to end up in the liver. So you inject in the blood to just target a muscle, and then it just goes like, in the liver. And so, or the different type of target. So I think the key is really to make sure you're able to be very specific to the target, to your target, or the cell, or the tissue you're targeting. Then you're going to increase the efficacy, and you can reduce the dose, because if you're really targeting, then you don't have to overdose. Regarding precision, if you're talking about personalized medicine, I think that's another step. That's a bit further down the road, in my opinion, is that at some point, if we want to treat Dylan or David, it's like two different people with different cell types and different genetic background and everything. You should be able to design a drug that's really designed for one patient. I think we're not there yet, because it means to have a very efficient production system per patient. But I think that will be eventually something that to look into.
So what it's got me thinking now is what's the trade-off? I mean, this is faster, it can be more precise, it can be cheaper. What are we trading off by using AI rather than a traditional approach? Is there a downside that we have to mitigate there?
I think it's mostly beneficial, to be honest, because what you're doing is you're using the alternative is lab. So the alternative to AI is to process into the lab lots of assays and screen. I mean, in drug design or drug discovery and drug design in particular. I think really, to be honest, I think the efficiency is mostly given by AI is mostly upside. I don't see a lot of downside. The downside will be the cost of computing power, the energy necessary for computing, because you're processing large data sets. You're using a lot of GPUs. I would say the downside are mostly the general challenges you have with AI in general. But because AI became so big and so fundamental, there are a lot of, I think, work on how to make it more efficient in terms of energy usage and resources. So I think it's mostly, in my view, mostly beneficial.
You're working, you said already, with Sanofi and some others as well. Why aren't these big pharma companies doing this for themselves? Not to steal away your business here, but why aren't they building their own systems? Why aren't their own teams doing that? Is there something that's holding them back, or are they just not quite as agile, not quite as fast to move?
Yeah, I think, we have this question a lot, because, people say, oh, they're so big company, they're big company, they have a lot of resources, a lot of money. Well, in the end, first of all, they're pharmaceutical companies. So what they're focused on is how they can just bring drugs to the market and, produce drugs and put them into the market. So I think this is their main focus. And they didn't necessarily develop a very data-driven, AI-based culture in the past, I don't know, 10 years. And so, yeah, that's probably your second point. It's a lack of, kind of agility that you can have in a smaller, in companies like startups, that by definition, innovation in smaller companies like startups, and you have exceptions like Google and and maybe Meta, but they are still the pharma is a bit more complex, because they have a lot of capex, they have a lot of they need a lot of equipment, there are a lot of labs, so a lot of operations are around that, and I think they just partner with companies that are ready to operate. Plus, as we mentioned before, there are so many topics AI can be applied in the field of pharmaceutical in general, or drug design in particular, and they can cover everything, right? So they just they come to us because they say, okay, you guys are specialized in genomic medicine, you understand our challenges, we know exactly what they need, we know what they're trying to achieve, so we come with something that's ready to operate, and so they gain a lot of time and efficiency.
What about on the moving away from the design and the target ID? What about when it comes to manufacturing? I mean, you guys were named a manufacturing tech disruptor at Advanced Therapies Week. Talk to me a little bit about manufacturing. How is AI reshaping this side of biotech?
Yeah, very good question. Actually, it's very interesting. We have discussions as well with some companies in the field, and we recently contracted with one of big company in the field of equipment for bioproduction and manufacturing. Um, Again, it's a question of efficiency and data driven decision making. So basically, in biomanufacturing, there are a lot of different steps. There are a lot of it's still like a not super efficient field. The yield to produce viral vectors, or is not good. So what you need to do first is understand why, because when it's not good, it means it costs money. That eventually you will be able to produce them. It takes time and it's not efficient, so it costs more money, and then it's reflected again in the price of the therapy at the end. So what we do for those companies, or like what AI can do, is really like, there are actually a lot of data available. You need to understand, the data available, how you analyze it, how you find root cause that impacts the whole process, which is a complex process because it has like both like biological components and then it has like pure like process data, and physical, like measures from different equipments. And so you need to make sense of that. And we work on some processes on lentiviruses bioproduction actually, and we really improve the yield. And so it shows that you can have, AI analysis. Again, when you have a lot of data, AI is super good at analyzing data and training algorithm to improve the process. So that's what we've done with those projects.
Is there a place for AI somewhere between the design and discovery and the manufacturing? Does it make the handoff any smoother? Are there ways it can help operationally too?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I'm going to give a simple example, but we're already impacting the biomanufacturing in the drug design. So if in our field, in the genomic medicine field, there is a need to have good vectors, like the viral vectors that are going to transport the DNA or RNA. This is a major bottleneck today in the industry. And so you can design a great vector that's going to be very specific to its target. That's great. But if you've designed this vector and you're not able to produce it, then you failed. So we work on, adding components like molecular components in the construct. So, and we use AI to predict, and we have actually a poster and an approach that we patented, is this vector going to be manufacturable? Are we going to be able to, is this vector going to be able to be produced and exist per se? Or is just if you add this component into the AI system and you predict this as like high chances of being viable, then it will be reflected into the bioproduction process, because then when, the chances will be that, I'm able to produce those vectors. So this is how we impact from drug design into bioproduction.
Let's look ahead a little bit here. Where do you think AI is going to be taking biotech, the places that we haven't seen yet? I mean, all of these things we're talking about, we're already seeing that impact. Where is it going? Yeah. Where are you betting on it being in sort of that 5 to 10 year horizon?
Yeah, I think the improvements today are still incremental. And the next step is to show you're able to design a drug that's AI guided, I would say, and it's validated in clinical trials in record times. I think that's, in the end, that's what you want to achieve, right? You want to achieve like safer and better drugs for patients, but you don't have to like wait 15 years to see them in the market. You want to see them in 3 years, in the market. Of course, you're going to have to do what is right with the regulatory, bodies, of course, and it still needs to be like that. But we need to speed up those drugs. Can save lives, and patients need them, and so you need to like boost the capacity to produce those drugs in record times. We've seen it with COVID. We know it's possible. It was not a drug, it was a vaccine, but before that vaccine took 10 years to be approved and developed and approved. So I think when there is a technological capacity, today to do it, and then there is general like interest to like produce drugs faster and like for the whole population. I think this is what we want to achieve, and what you can foresee hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years.
I think that COVID example is a really good one, because we just decided that we could do it. We decided that we would work with regulators, work with companies, work with biotechs, and it got done in record time. Is there a place for AI on the regulatory side to advance things and accelerate things on that side?
Well, I think regulators are going to be convinced again by I would say biological data. Uh, maybe at some point, I think where AI can also like maybe need to be also the impact of regulation is, we're still using animal models like like non-human primates to validate some drugs, which is the standard. And if at some point we are able to go into human trials with less animal models, I think it's probably a challenge, right? But with like organoids models, for example, and things like that are will prevent using animals in preclinical trials, I think that would be great. That could be some topic interesting, probably discussed with regulatory bodies. But again, regulatory bodies, their role is to make sure the drug is safe for patients in clinical trials as well. And so it's an important decision. I think AI can help in regulation for sure. And I'm not a regulatory expert, but I'm sure there are a lot of initiatives in AI and regulation at the FDA or like the EMA.
Yeah, we're already talking about generative AI, machine learning. These are quite established AI technologies. Are there other things that are emerging, though, tools and techniques, things like protein language models or other things that are going to come to dominate the field in the years ahead?
Yeah. Definitely protein language model. As you mentioned, we use it. We have developed our own PLM, DNA language model as well, RNA language model. So I think the models for like designing genetic sequences or proteins are important. They are game changer in the field. There are still a lot of work to be done. They are less mature than LLMs, which is fine. I mean, it's great. LLMs is helping on other topics, and it's great. So I think you mentioned for us the great example of protein language model, and I would say deep learning, generative AI, also related to protein prediction. So I think the field of proteins, there a lot has been done. It's amazing to see the progress, and a lot will still be done in the next couple of years. So there are a lot of possibilities that are still coming in the field of AI and innovation.
Maybe I'm being a bit unfair here, because sort of a 10-year window, if we went back in time 10 years, 2015, you probably weren't thinking about these sorts of things at all, or at least the possibilities there. Is 10 years too much of a window, too big a window for AI?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it's the pace of innovation of AI has been just amazing in the past couple of years. You see, and it's also because it's highly financed, which is great. I think I look at AI with a shorter window frame, right? I would say it depends what we want to set as an endpoint, right? But the impact of like innovation of AI is every 6 months right now, So, I mean, there are like the new Llama model that just came out, and, and there will be new AlphaFold model, and there will be better and better. And it's a whole ecosystem actually going upwards, It's like basically helping the industry to get better and better with more like fundamental biologic models, and also helping us where we have a more like applied with like a real application. It's like not fundamental, it's like applied to designing new therapies. It goes fast, which is great for us.
From WhiteLab's perspective, what's the next big challenge that AI has to tackle? Maybe something that's already in your roadmap.
Well, I think for us, again, it will be AI, a drug like that's been designed by our AI that hits clinical milestones. This is our next. This is not us. We're not going into clinical trials ourselves. We're a tech bio company, so not biotech, but our partner, like a pharma company, we're discussing with, taking the drug we designed into clinical trials, show it's successful. That's what we want to see next for WhiteLab.
And just a final thought: if you had to pitch the future of AI and biotech to someone who was really skeptical of AI in general, maybe they've had a bad experience already, or a large language model, got them in trouble with their boss. What's the one thing you'd say to that sort of person to convince them that AI and biotech really is a game changer?
I started WhiteLab in 2019 in France, and I can tell you, I talked to a lot of skeptical people, because AI was not that well understood back then. I would say something, I will go back to my life in the medical imaging. I remember in around 2000, there was in imaging a software, working on the software to do like computer-aided diagnostic, CAD, which is, premises of AI, like how the software is going to help the radiologist to like detect better, potential lesions, potential like tumors and there was such a pushback that people like were so negative. No, this is too scary or too risky just to leave it to the computer. Basically, it gives you more information. So today, it's not even a question anymore, right? So today, the radiologists, they use AI to just do their, to confirm that diagnostics. There is no question whatsoever. But 25 years ago, the pushback was really strong, and it took the industry that long to actually make it accepted. I think it was a waste of opportunity. So I would say, why don't you give it the benefit of the doubt? Try it. You can be deceived, you can be disappointed, but don't waste the opportunity, because we waited 20 years to get like AI for radiology to be more accepted or totally accepted. But it's a waste of 20 years because it was there 20 years ago in some different way, but not that different. And same for like AI in biotech, right? Give it the benefit of the doubt. It's been actually proven with like the Moderna approach to mRNA design in record times. In the end, it will benefit everyone. And I think there are less skeptical people today. People are using ChatGPT and they see what it can do, and other AI tools to design cars, and it's kind of everywhere today. I think, yeah, that's what I would tell them. Give it the benefit of the doubt.
Perfect. David, thanks for joining us today on Beyond Biotech.
Thank you, Dylan. Thanks for having me.
That's it for this episode. Don't forget to check out all the latest news and analysis at Labiotech.eu. I hope wherever you are in the world, you have a great week ahead. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll join us again next time for another Beyond Biotech.